In this report, I share the top 4 reasons why cheap world travel is possible now. I've traveled the world for over 14 years now. I've visited or lived in 67 countries. I've been to all of the continents but Antarctica. I've done most of it on the cheap. Now I'll explain the top 4 reasons cheap world travel is possible now. These are the reasons why I'm able to slow travel the world on the cheap. By the way, you don't need to take notes. I'll give you a link to all this information in writing at the end. I will show you pictures I've taken all over the world as I explain how these top 4 reasons have allowed my life and what I call the Slow Travel World Highway. The Slow Travel World Highway exists only in my mind now, but it's about to be in your mind too. The Slow Travel World Highway will take you all around the world from continent to continent. Within each continent, you can take exits into any of the countries of interest. And within each country, you can take exits anywhere in the country that you want. You decide when to take an exit and how long to stay. I've been traveling the Slow Travel World Highway since I left the USA in 2007. I believe it is the key to how normal people like you and me can travel every part of the world before we die. Well, at least the parts we're curious about. But I need to destroy a few false beliefs first. Is world travel only for rich people? World travel is no longer only a rich person's game. The top 4 reasons are changes in the world economy that have made cheap world travel available to all of us now. If you're like me, when you were growing up, you saw only rich people traveling the world in movies. They had heaps of luggage and a personal assistant. They sipped champagne on luxury liners and intercontinental jets. They stayed in penthouse apartments, ate on Crystal in fancy restaurants, drove around in Italian convertibles, stayed on sailboats with captains and yachts with crews, smoked cigars while gambling thousands, and shopped for fashions in Milan or Paris. So as a young man, I just assumed I had to win big in life to have any chance at being able to live my dreams. You see, I always knew that I wanted to see the world. I also thought that travel was something you did in retirement. So those 2 ideas formed in my head. I needed to make a whole lot of money and then live like a king in retirement traveling the world. I was not from a wealthy family. There was no trust fund in my future. So I put my nose down on the grindstone for 30 years. Luckily, I was wrong about both assumptions. I didn't need to be rich, and I didn't have to wait until retirement to travel the world. The world changed drastically in some very specific ways between 1990 and 2010. Those changes have allowed me to live my dream life. Okay, now for the top 4 reasons cheap world travel is possible and why I'm able to live my dreams 15 years before retirement with 75% less money. After the top 4, I'll explain how to live on the cheap when you head out on the Slow Travel World Highway. Okay, top 4 reasons cheap world travel is possible now. The internet. The internet has taken information out of the hands of the few and put it into the hands of the many. Anyone with a passion and a better way to do something can offer it up to the entire world. This has allowed everyone to be able to access the best ideas, not just the rich. It has also allowed a race to the bottom in pricing or commoditization of goods and services worldwide. The internet has been the backbone of the other changes that have enabled the Slow Travel World Highway that I'll now talk about. The sharing economy. The sharing economy is one of the major reasons Slow Travel World Highway is possible now. Services like Uber, Grab, and Lyft allow you to book a private taxi from airports, bus stations, train stations to your accommodations, often for less than half the price of commercial taxis. Services like Airbnb, Facebook Marketplace, VRBO, Booking.com allow you to book entire furnished apartments with kitchens and internet connections for weeks or months, often cheaper than hotel rooms. Services such as Skyscanner allow you to find the cheapest flights. Other services like Rome to Romeo allow you to find the cheapest ground transportation between countries or cities, such as buses, trains, ferries, and now flights. Remote work. Many companies around the world are hiring consultants or employees residing all over the world. This allows people in one country to have jobs, projects, or gig work for companies anywhere else in the world. So long as they have a workable internet connection, people are allowed to roam the world freely, subject only to visa laws. The digital economy. Companies like PayPal, TransferWise, Stripe, commercial banks, and others are the economic backbone of the digital economy. Money moves all over the world for goods and services purchased on the internet. Citizens of a first country working in a second country buy services online offered in a third country and pay an individual performing the services in a fourth country. So people are able to travel around the world and pay for the services they need. In fact, I've been able to start my own online business using the tools of the digital economy that now earns more than twice what I spend out on the slow travel world highway. I have a report teaching you how to make money online if you're interested in that. Link provided. Okay, the slow travel world highway. I'm going to simplify the slow travel world highway, but you'll get the idea fairly rapidly. The goal is to spend as little money as possible within reason as you slow travel the world. There are three main costs of slow traveling the world: transportation, accommodations, and food. I'll start with transportation. Transportation. The slow travel world highway is just a name I made up. To understand what it means, just imagine that you can get from anywhere in the world to another place in the world on the slow travel world highway. But imagine that you don't have to fly everywhere. You can move between highway exits on the slow travel world highway on any combination of the cheapest transportation means, such as airplanes, boats, trains, buses, bicycles, or even your feet if you wanted to, or any other way you please. All of this information is available on the internet now. Since the goal of the slow travel world highway is to stay within budget, you can pick whatever means of transportation you please to get from one slow travel world highway exit to another. So for example, if your research shows that it's cheaper to move from one city in Vietnam to another city by train, you take a train. If the bus is cheaper, you take a bus. If a minivan's cheaper, you take a minivan. But if a bicycle is cheapest, you may decide to take something more expensive if you can stay within budget. So you pick the best mode of movement on each leg of your travels, balancing your budget and your time goals. You make this same analysis every time you jump on the slow travel world highway. Your slow travel highway will not be the same as mine because you will be selecting airplanes, boats, trains, buses based upon your budget and time constraints. The good news is that the slow travel world highway has transportation modes that fit almost any budget. Types of highways. The slow travel highway has intercontinental highways, international highways, and national highways. An intercontinental highway is a highway that takes you between continents. An international highway takes you between nations, and a national highway takes you between places within a single nation. In general, you'll find travel between countries on the same continent is cheaper on buses, trains, and ferries. But sometimes planes are cheaper, so you have to check. Travel between continents is almost always cheaper by airplane. Intercontinental routes. When you are designing your path through the continents, look for a path through the continents that reduces the sum of all of your intercontinental routes. Let me give you an example. This order of continents was cheapest last time I checked. Asia to Europe, you can cross the continents going from Turkey to Bulgaria for $24 by train. When you're going from Europe to Africa, you can cross on a ferry from Spain to Morocco for $35. Africa to South America, you can catch a flight from Pretoria to Sao Paulo for $398. South America to North America, you can catch a flight from Cartagena to Panama City for $110. And North America to Asia, you can fly from Mexico City to Hong Kong on a flight for $417. You just move forward through the continents, you don't fly home. And once you get to a continent, you move through the continent in whatever order of the cities you want to see that's the shortest distance and the sum of the shortest travel modes of transportation. Anyway, if you sum these continental transfers I found on Rome to Romeo today, it would cost you $998 US to fly or take a train at the various links between continents completely around the world on the slow travel world highway. This intercontinental route should also be adjusted for which countries you want to visit in each continent. Okay, continental highways. Once you're in a highway, you have to decide, or once you're within a continent, you have to decide which countries you want to see on each continent. That will help you select entry and exit points from the entire continent and the shortest or cheapest path between countries you want to see within the continent. You also have to balance the time you spend in each country, spending on the cost of living there and budget constraints. For example, the countries in Eastern Europe are much cheaper and are more interesting, in my opinion, in general, than the Western European countries. It's because they were not as destroyed in the world wars, so they have older, more interesting architecture. So you may want to spend more time in Eastern Europe and just grab a train over to Western Europe from time to time for long weekends. By spending more time in cheaper countries, you will stay within budget, so you can afford to see more expensive countries also just for shorter periods of time. So select a path through those countries of interest and time in each that is best considering your budgets and time constraints. Once you have a path, verify the cheapest modes of transportation through the selected countries on that continent. Okay, national highways. Like the transfers between intercontinental and international highways, the national highways have different modes of transportation. So you have to pick the desirable places in each country that you want to see and find the cheapest mode of transportation between them. So the first secret to slow travel the world is to save money on moving between destinations whenever possible to stay within budget. Next, we talk about how to save on rent as you slow travel the world. But the main idea of the slow travel highway is that you move forward, you're not flying back home all the time, and you're going to each place one after another that you want to see. And by completely exploring a region before you move to another part of the world, you save money on travel overall. And of course, once a year, once every other year, you're going to want to fly home to see family, of course. Okay, next up, accommodations. The largest expense when slow traveling the world is your accommodations. The key to reducing accommodations is to stay longer in each place. Renting by the month or week is cheaper than renting by the night. I have another report that explains how to find the cheapest apartments around the world, link provided. You need to get good at reducing your costs of accommodations. The better you are at saving on rents, the more money of your budget you'll have left over to spend on having fun exploring each destination you go to. But apartments might be too expensive for some people's budgets. There are people that live for free on other people's couches. One such webpage that helps people find free couches to sleep on is called couchsurfing.org. People surfed my couch when I was living in India. Other people do volunteer work around the world and get free places to stay while they're volunteering. Volunteering is also a great way to get to know the culture you're visiting. Another great way to save money on accommodations is to become a house sitter. I have a report on how to live for free by house sitting around the world. Check out that report if you're curious. Last but not least, let's talk about food. But remember, there's links to all of this at the end. Food. You can save money on food as you slow travel the world in two major ways. First, cook at home more often. It's easier to control quality and costs if you buy fruits, vegetables, and grains in the local markets around the world and cook healthy, cheap meals at home. You also need to learn about the culture of each place you visit. One of the easiest ways to do that in the cheaper parts of the world is to eat in restaurants frequented by locals. Those are often much cheaper than the expat or tourist restaurants. If you get to know locals, they can teach you about their favorite home-cooked meals and where they buy the ingredients and how they cook those meals. Since locals in some countries often have tighter budgets than travelers, learning what and how they eat can help you stay within your budget. I've been traversing the slow travel world highway for 14 years now. I've written hundreds of reports intended to give you a soft landing as you traverse the slow travel world highway. Just click the link in the notes below this video to see this and many other reports in writing. Thank you for checking out my report, The Top 4 Reasons Cheap World Travel is Possible Now. This is Dan of Vagabond Awake, the YouTube channel for vagabondbuddha.com. The world is your home. What time will you be home for dinner? Hey, if you live somewhere in the world that's beautiful and cheap and you'd like to come on the channel and be a guest star and tell the public about it, please leave a comment below. Thanks so much. Just a reminder, this is what one of my real replies looks like. It has shading. See the shading? And here's what a fake reply looks like. There's no shading. Be careful, don't interact with those people. They're fraudulent, I report them, but in case one slips through, I don't want you to get conned by one of these scammers. Hey, if you liked our video, please like, comment, or subscribe. Any of that would help our business. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching our video. Click the link in the notes below this video to get a copy of this content. Plus, grab a free copy of my ebook, How I Fired My Boss and Traveled the World for 13 Years. While you're there, check out our catalog of retired cheap reports all over the world and our hobby income course that we just released. Thanks so much.